Okay, here are the 4 prompts due for your homework. Take a look at them, copy them down, make sure that you get them correctly down. Make sure when you solve these that you are checking to see if any of your solutions make the denominator 0 for your original equation. We don't want 0 in the denominator. 0 in the denominator, or 0 as the denominator, makes the fraction, what's the word? Can't think of the word now. Undefined. So we don't want to have 0. So any value of x that would make our denominator 0, or any of our denominators 0, for instance, if you do this first one and you end up with x equals -2, well, if I plug this back in here, -2 plus 2 equals 0, so this would not be a solution. So be careful for that as we go forward. All right, so write these down, try them. I'm going to go over one of them. All right, we're going over number 1. This is a fairly difficult problem. It is a rational equation. We cannot use cross multiplication because we have 2 fractions on the left, 1 on the right. The only time you can use cross multiplication is if you have 1 fraction on the left of the equal sign and 1 on the right of the equal sign. We don't have that in this case, so we cannot use cross multiplication as this equation sits right now. Another method we talked about is to get rid of these denominators by multiplying by a common denominator. Now, a common denominator here, our denominators are x plus 2, x, and 5x. It's going to be a little bit more difficult, but you can always find a common denominator by multiplying the 3 denominators, or however many denominators there are, together, and that'll give you a common denominator. Might not be the least common denominator, but it will be a denominator, or a common denominator. So what we're going to do is multiply this by x plus 2, x, and 5x. So I'm going to bring that out here. We'll have x, I'll put x on the left, x plus 2, and let me write that with the parentheses the right way. So I'm going to multiply this entire thing by x plus 2 and 5x. All right, and let's see, everything by that. Okay, when you do the first part, so this 3 over 2, or x plus 2. This x plus 2 is going to cancel with this one. You're going to be left with your x here, your 5x, and times 3. So that's going to be 3 times 5x is 15x, times x is 15x squared. All right, so that's our first part. So now I'm going to get rid of these blue lines, and now we need to multiply by the second part here. Now our x is going to actually cancel out. Now we have a minus. Remember, it's a minus. That's very important. That tripped me up a little bit when I was doing this problem. So make sure to remember we have a minus. So it's minus 1 times the remaining terms that I'm multiplying by. So I'm going to have 5x times x plus 2. All right. Doesn't matter what order you put it in. But probably easier when you have parentheses to put the one term on the outside, the monomial, because you have a binomial on the inside here. So probably easier to put the 5x on the outside and do it that way. All right, and that is going to equal. Now we have to do the one on the left, or I'm sorry, the right-hand side equal sign. So I'm going to get rid of these here. There we go. And get rid of this. There we go. Look at that. All right. So now, when you multiply this third part on the right-hand side equal sign, you notice 5x is being canceled with this. Now you have 1 times x plus 2. So we have x and x plus 2. All right. Now we can go ahead and start doing some math. So we have 15x squared. So now you have a negative 5x. So you have minus 5x squared, and then a negative 5x times 2, which is minus 10x equals x squared plus 2x. All right, now we have 15x squared minus 5x squared. That is just 10x squared equal, nope, I'm sorry, minus 10x equals x squared plus 2x. Now I can subtract, well, you can do it anyway. I'll subtract x squared, and end up with 9 x squared minus 10x equals 2x. Now, I see it's a quadratic, so a good thing would be to set it equal to 0. And we have minus 2x minus 2x. And we have 9x squared minus 12x equals 0. Now, you could use the quadratic formula in this case. That would certainly work. I'm going to go ahead and factor though. Can we factor? Well, I can bring a 3 out of this 9 and this 12, so I'm going to have 3. I can also bring an x out of this x squared and this x. So it's going to be 3x. Now, what's left over? Well, 9 divided by 3 is 3, right? And I still have an x there. And 12 divided by 3 is 4 equals 0. Now we have two factors. Now we set each factor equal to 0. 3x is equal to 0, so that's a factor set equal to 0. Or 3x minus 4 is equal to 0. All right, our first one, very easy. Divide by 3, divide by 3, and we get x is equal to 0. And our second one, we add 4, we add 4, and we have 3x is equal to 4, divide by 3, divide by 3, and x is equal to 4 over 3. All right, now, you need to check back with your original equations. Do any of our values, either one of our values, 0 or 4 over 3, make any of our fractions 0? Well, we look here. If I plug in 0 for this one right here, I get 1 over 0, which is not good. That's undefined. That is not a solution. So we can go and cross this out. 4/3 is okay. Nothing wrong with 4/3, so this is going to be our solution right here. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and do it a different way very quickly, as quick as I can, rather. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, I'm back. I'm going to do this a different way now. I'm going to actually focus on the left-hand side, and I'm going to add these together. I'm going to combine these, make these one fraction so I can use cross multiplication. So I'm just going to focus right here. So I'm going to add these, but I need a common denominator between these two. So common denominator in this case could just be x times x plus 2. So I'm going to have x times x plus 2 as one denominator, and then minus, and then have x times x plus 2 as my other one. Now, what do I have to do? What's the missing factor for this first one? Well, it already has x plus 2, but you need it to multiply by x. Excuse me. So we actually had to multiply this by x over x, which allowed, which turned into that. So we have to do the top, which is just going to be 3x. Now the second one already has the x, so we have to multiply that by x plus 2. So it's going to be 3x minus 1 times x plus 2. Now be careful. Again, the fact that this was a subtraction right here tripped me up, and I'm going to show you where when I went over this problem the first time. So now we have common denominators. So now, like we talked about earlier in the year, when I have common denominators, I can write it as one fraction. So I could write this as 3x minus, now here's the trick. It's minus x plus 2, so it's minus the x and minus the 2. All right, gotta be careful. So it's minus x and then minus 2. You can almost think about it as minus x plus 2. You can think of it that way, which gives you a negative x minus 2. The first time I did this problem, I didn't see that, and I went through a lot of time trying to figure out where my mistake was, and that's where it was. It's supposed to be minus x minus 2 all over x times x plus 2, and that is equal to 1 over 5x. Now we have, now we can do some simplifying. So 3x minus x is 2x minus 2 all over x times x plus 2 is equal to 1 over 5x. Now we have two fractions. Now, those of you who like cross multiplying, you can go ahead and just cross multiply these, because you have one fraction equaling another fraction. So we're going to do this first part first. This is going to be 2x minus 2 times 5x. So that is, really it's like this, so be careful. It's 2x minus 2 times 5x. So that 5x goes here, 5x also goes here. So that's 10x squared minus 10x equals x times x plus 2. And as you can see, if you watch the first part of the video, it's the same thing as what we had before. So we have 10x squared minus 10x equals x squared plus 2x. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and subtract x squared, and we're going to end up with 9x squared minus 10x equals 2x. Now we're going to subtract 2x, we end up with 9x squared minus 12x equals 0. Okay, now we can factor it. You could use quadratic formula again, but I can bring out 3x. I'm left with 3x minus 4 equals 0. Set those both equal to 0 as we did before. Everything else is the same from this point, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it very quickly. X equals 0, or x equals 4 over 3. Because I have to add the 4 divided by the 3. Hopefully you already saw that. Now, but if you check our 0 again, put it back in, it's gonna make that middle fraction undefined. So this is not a solution. So our solution is 4 over 3. Hope that helped. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask.